Alright guys, welcome back to VALORANT News. The Ludwig Tarik Invitational Tournament number 2 is over, and what a series of results we had after all the talk going into it about Tier 1 versus Tier 2, which teams were going to make the finals, how this new Cloud9 and especially new 100 Thieves team would fare. Turned out that Oxygen Esports and Moist Shopify, they were the two teams that made the finals and put on an absolutely phenomenal show. Cloud9, not that long ago, they were mixing it up with Curry in their team, with Fnatic in the grand finals of a tournament. Now though, they look a shadow of their former selves. What went on over the last couple of days? Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. Plenty to get into. Firstly, I thought this is kind of interesting. Certain teams, especially in the Pacific, of course, playing loads of different off-season tournaments. Most teams have played something and either won something or got kind of close to winning something. We see PaperX, we see Dirix, etc, etc. The only team, of course, that was undefeated, well, Team Secret as well, I guess they were 5-0, but yeah, the only team to not lose a map in the entire split was RRQ, because they played absolutely nothing, and I thought this is kind of funny. RRQ didn't even lose a single round during the off-season, so, you know, what a team, right? But they haven't played anything, so time will only tell on that one. I also thought it was interesting from Ye. He's made something of a comeback to social media, really, over the last few days, and is talking about practice, the way things have been going, maybe rumours emerging as to how their teams might be getting on. Still waiting for Ye's debut, right? I mean, we've seen lots of off-season tournaments, loads of different teams play over the last couple of weeks, but Ye on Bleed, we haven't seen him because they played that tournament. Ye couldn't make it, health issues, visa issues, whatever the case was, but Ye couldn't play, unfortunately, so we're still waiting for him to make his debut and see how good they actually might be. But as he says, if your favourite team is winning scrims, you know, brilliant, they're contenders for Masters and Champions. If they're losing, then scrims don't matter anyway. Couple of roster updates as well out in that Pacific region, with Dirix confirming Zest's contract has now been terminated. So we saw the other day RB was, well, departed the team to go to Titan Club, or Titan Esports Club, or I forget what they're called, the team over there in the Chinese region. Zest is now in a similar position, so his contract has now been terminated and is now available as a free agent. So I'm guessing that they didn't have as much interest in Zest to potentially buy him out as they might have done for other players, or for RB, for example, that they've decided that, you know what, they'll let Zest go, and he's now no longer a DRX player and will be an unrestricted free agent for anybody to sign. So there's still lots of questions whether this was a good decision or not, really, getting rid of RB, getting rid of Zest, and, you know, they're not backing down, you know, they're burning the boats, as it were, right? I mean, they've made the decision, and they are not keeping RB and Zest around as substitutes just in case. They are, you know, cutting them loose, and they're going to go on to their next adventure. So not sure exactly what's going to be next for Zest, but of course wishing him the best going forwards. They also spotted this, that Glow, who I believe has been their coach for a little bit of time, but he's now been, well, he's on DRX with the 2026 contract, and he was playing with these boys back in the Vision Strikers days, I believe. So, and then he, you know, stepped away, does some coaching stuff. That, I believe, is what's going on there. Still some rumours about what their actual team is going to be. Are they going to keep Foxy9 in the lineup? Are they going to get King in? There were some rumours about that, but we'll see if there's any further updates on that in the near future. But we've got to talk about Tier 2, and especially everything in this Ludwig Tarik tournament. Thought it was kind of funny, the discrepancy, really, between the European players' perception of T2 and the North American players' perception of T2, because as Safe says, you know, well, I'm not going to read out all of these, but you know what I mean. He's kind of criticising the way that Tier 2 teams think about the game, the way they perform, you know, disbanding, blaming other people, losing officials, wondering what went wrong. But as Ethan says, it's the opposite in NA. Tier 2 are actually the best teams, the best practice, and arguably the best teams. Because I was expecting some upset results at the Ludwig Tarik Invitational. I still think that the highest, I still thought, at least not now, but I still thought that the highest probability outcome was both of the Tier 1 teams making the finals. But I think that it was almost overwhelmingly likely that one of those two teams would be upset. The fact that both of those two teams were upset, and maybe you could even argue that it's not an upset, because an upset implies they were beaten by a worse team. I don't know if that's necessarily the case of the evidence we have seen over the last couple of days. So here we go. The you know, here's Tarik on the left here. I thought absolutely fantastic stuff. Awesome tournament as always. Of course, they put together the show match as well with you know, lots of excitement in this one. But before we got to that point, of course, and Tens was absolutely farming. There was a few clips that I might share for you guys at the end of the video. But 100T, they were the big talking point of yesterday. They bowed out of the tournament in absolutely stone last place. They lost their first game to Oxygen. They then got beaten by Cloud9. Very competitive series against Cloud9. They went down though, so understandably lots to talk. Well, 100T just formed their new roster. Boostio looked like the only bright spot, really. The rest of the team was not pretty exactly. There's been lots to talk about. Cryo, is he so suited to the current meta? Does he need to change roles? I think there's things for Thieves to talk about. Now, Thieves said after the fact, oh, don't worry, guys. We're just preparing for the season to start, and when the season starts, we're going to be fantastic. But it's easy to say that, oh, yeah, don't worry, just practice, just getting some reps in, and when the season starts, we're going to be great. I'm not necessarily sure it's so clear-cut as that, and understandably, Sentinel's kind of toasting them right here. But honestly, the Cloud9 situation wasn't too far behind. Well done, C9. They managed to take down, 100T, but as I predicted yesterday, I was like, okay, I'm going to change my mind. I'm not going to predict Cloud9 to make the finals and win. I'm just going to say Oxygen are going to beat them because I love this Oxygen team. I said it yesterday that I really like this roster. Like, they're actually so good. And I'm not going to lie, the way this tournament has concluded, it's not a good look for Riot, really, because we know that how they try and structure the league right now is that you've got Tier 1, that is the premier competition. The belief is by Riot and by, theoretically the Valorant world, that the Tier 1 teams are the best teams, and in Tier 2, they don't even support it, right? I mean, let's be honest, Riot have said that they don't even really care if organizations support Tier 2. They are happy for just 5 random players to play as a team and call themselves some random name and then get signs by, a franchise team, a partner team, when they win Ascension. But there are organizations supporting Tier 2, and there is absolutely no doubt that there are teams in Tier 2, arguably multiple teams in Tier 2, that are better than some of the Tier 1 teams. I mean, if Cloud9 and 100T are getting beaten in these fashions by Oxygen, Shopify, and then by extrapolation, you can also argue M80 in probably a kind of similar position, then, and Cloud9 and 100T, are they middle of the pack franchise teams? I don't know what you guys think about that one, but certainly Oxygen Esports, Moist Shopify are better than some franchise teams right now, which is probably not really what Riot want to see when their whole point is that, well, franchise is one level of their Tier 2. They don't do much support for Tier 2, and then the Tier 2 teams go to an off-season tournament and kind of embarrass the pro teams, because that's basically what happened here. Oxygen just slammed Cloud9. Like, this was not even close. Map 1 was legitimately 13-1 on the split here, and you can talk about, experimentation, and I think Cloud9 did run like a deadlock or something day 1, but this one here on the split, absolutely giga slammed, right? And Oxy, who I thought was the best player in the server in the series they're playing against Thieves, in this one was just outclassed. I mean, I love this Oxygen team. I think they're so good, and I mean, Redux is here on the icebox with 30 frags. Oxy does turn up and deliver a decent performance here, but no one else was any good. What do you guys think about Cloud9 though? Because they played that tournament with Curry, who was like a sub for them, and they did very well, and there was talk about whether Curry should stay in, and he did a respectable job, and they looked good. They played Fnatic in the finals, and from that moment you might have expected them to kick on somewhat, but coming here against Oxygen and getting absolutely slammed. I mean, Verdo, Redux, Dapr, it's the usual suspects really. I mean, also Dapr, massive credit to him, because there was talk about this guy after he leaves Sentinels, is he washed and all this, and also you've got to say as well, fair play to Sentinels, because in the Sentinels Invitational they played, they actually beat Oxygen twice, didn't they? And the second time it was relatively comfortable. And Oxygen are like a legit serious team. Like, they might be a challenger super team, to be honest. So Cloud9 bow out emphatically. And that's a middle of the pack franchise team on paper. Like, that's how impressive this was from Oxygen and from the Tier 2 teams. But it does make me kind of sad about the way the format is. I wish there was more opportunities for the Tier 2 teams to play the Tier 1 teams and the structure wasn't defined as it is. Because if they're better than Cloud9 as it stands, which they might not be in a month or two, but right now they are. I mean, I think it's difficult to argue based on the evidence we've seen over the last couple of days. Then you would think theoretically that you look at teams like, MIBR and Furia maybe, and Crew Esports maybe that weren't so good in the franchise league last year, and you've got to think, well, Cloud9 on paper better than those guys. So how many teams are Oxygen better than? Where would Oxygen be if they were just to be in the franchise league? Would they be top 5? Would they be better than that? Like, they might be in that ballpark, which is, well, it's incredible for those guys, but yet they have kind of nothing to show for how good they are unless they try and win Ascension, because just the way that the ecosystem works isn't really ideal. So pretty embarrassing, really. I mean, for these franchise teams to come in here and get absolutely body slammed by Tier 2 rosters. And especially, okay, 100T you can kind of forgive because kind of new team, just formed their roster, not much practice. But the idea that Cloud9 got slammed is pretty bad, really. And as Zephyr says, GG's to the teams we played, lots to practice to get back to where we were at. I promise you we'll be ready for the NA franchise league. Because sure, I'm sure they took a break over Christmas. They probably took more of a break than the Tier 2 teams did. And fair enough. But they also decided to come to this tournament and give it a go to get some practice in, and they've been absolutely slammed. So maybe it can be good for these guys in some respects because they know that, all right, lots of work to do, lots of improvements to be done, but it's still not exactly a great sign for how these teams are going to compete next season in the VCT when they're getting slammed by challenger teams basically 1 month before. But I don't want to disrespect the quality of these challenger teams because they have so many great players. And I mean, again, if I'm a team in tier 1, like, I really want to sign these guys, and this is the trouble for Oxygen, is actually retaining these players. You know, if I'm Cloud9, if I'm 100T, and I'm looking at changes, you know, I'm just looking at Oxygen. I'm thinking, well, they beat me. Like, why can't I just sign those guys? And, you know, this could be an interesting question because you might want to do that, and it might be a very viable idea to do exactly that. But Oxygen will want to retain their players because they want to win Ascension and therefore qualify through Ascension and win the entire thing. And it's crazy that, you know, these two teams, Moisturify and Oxygen, wouldn't have been that long ago. You'd have thought, oh, you know, nice, you know, interesting matchup between two teams of kind of some young players, some older veteran guys mixed in, pretty interesting. This is now like a classic rivalry, you know. These guys have played quite a lot now. Ascent went Moist's way 13-9, and then it was 13-8 the other way, and then Oxygen just slammed in the final map here. I mean, again, look at Verno and Redux, man. So inspirational. Plus 24, plus 20. Just incredible, like, how good these guys are. Moist I like as well, but as I said the other day, like, Oxygen, I just think this team is class. And as Dapr says, winner of the Ludwig Tarik Invitational. Sure, it's a Mickey Mouse tournament, invitational, whatever, but you can't tell me these teams weren't trying to win, right? Always nice to win, see some familiar faces, but they can now try and take that momentum into the season, right? I mean, have a look at this. Top-rated players. Verno, Redux, Scuba, Dapr is here with Marder. Marder's the only one of another team that appears in the top 5 rated players of the tournament. So yeah, what a performance. It's remarkable. Like, if you'd have showed me this before the tournament and you had to have me predict who would be on here, I think I would have put Verno in here. I think I might have put Redux in here, but you know, I would have definitely put someone from like 100 team Cloud9 probably, but that's not how it's turned out at all. So this was the bracket for the Ludwig Tarik Invitational number 2, and both of the franchise teams got absolutely slammed out of the tournament. The only map that they won was against each other, right? Which is absurd, no? Both C9 and 100T couldn't win a map against any of the challenger teams. So absolutely remarkable storylines, and well, we'll see how this goes going forward, right? As Dapr says, beating the washed allocations. Oxygen, can they take this momentum in? Ascension and Challenge is going to be absolutely flames this season, right? With the teams down there, Oxygen, you know, Moist, Jobify, M80, other good teams, I'm sure, as well, but does make me sad that we're not going to get to see these guys actually play the pro teams on a more regular basis, because they're certainly better than some of them. So very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.
He went,
Okay.
one tap. He's going crazy. He's going crazy.
Shit.
1v1.
Oh, wow.
He's gonna try and knife him.
Oh.
What am I watching?
Oh my god!
How did
My
they...
king!
Is there actually?
There is.
There is.
No.
If there's a will, there's a way.
How the hell did he win that?
Dude. That's actually incredible.